Most people do not live. They perform, not on a stage with spotlights, but in the quiet places where it counts most. In the manner you bend a sentence so it does not offend. In the same way that you record a win, the screen refreshes like a cardiac monitor. In the way you pretend to agree because disagreement feels dangerous. In the way you explain your decisions before anyone ever asks, as if you were submitting paperwork for your own life. You tell yourself it is normal, that you are being polite, that you are being considerate, but look closely and you'll find the true mechanism. You're being graded, not formally or numerically, but by reactions, raised eyebrows, silence, approval, and distance. And, like any intelligent animal, you adapted. You learnt which versions of yourself are rewarded and which are penalized. Even your body participates. When you are commended, you feel a surge of adrenaline, a sinking in your stomach when a message is left on read, and a need to rehabilitate your image. That is the addiction. In a minute, I'll show you the single shift that breaks it, absolutely free of disputes, speeches, and guilt. That is the invisible jail. You don't need bars when someone else can operate the steering wheel. If other people's approval determines what you say, dress, date, and pursue, they are driving. You are simply sitting in the passenger seat, offering directions you do not even believe in. Machiavelli would immediately recognize this. He saw that society values morality, but rewards power. It celebrates sacrifice, but abuses it. It instructs you to be humble, and then respects the individual who refuses to kneel. It tells you to be easygoing, then delegated leadership to the one who sets the terms. The universe does not revolve around what is fair. It is arranged based on what is enforced. People learn to comply. At work, you become nice out of fear of being considered tough. You become the reliable one in your family because you don't want to disappoint them. You laugh at hurtful things with your pals because you don't want to ruin their mood. You curate opinions on the internet that won't get you exiled because you fear the mob more than you respect your own intelligence. The longer you live this way, the more your life becomes a negotiation, not with truth but with other people's emotions. You do not choose a path. You chose a course that will not elicit resistance. You do not speak the truth. You say the truth, and it will be accepted. That isn't maturity, that's management. Here's the tipping point you've been avoiding. Your need to be understood is a leash. The desire to be liked has a hefty tag. Once you've seen that, you can begin cutting the strings. Instead of receiving applause, you can begin to act on your own initiative. But I have to warn you, when you quit performing, some people will view it as betrayal. Not because you injured them, but because your compliance helped them. Your previous employment provided them with comfort. Your freedom makes people unsure. Uncertainty is where power begins. Machiavelli's fundamental premise is straightforward. Whoever controls your approval controls you, not because they are stronger than you, but because you gave them the control. When you need someone to perceive you as decent, smart, loyal, or not selfish, you have made them your judge. And when someone becomes your judge, you start acting like a defendant, constantly providing evidence, explaining purpose, and attempting to avoid a guilty finding. This begins early. As a child, criticism was not just uncomfortable, but also hazardous. A parent's disappointment implied punishment, rejection, and a withdrawn demeanor that felt like exile. Teachers rated you. Friends tried you. You mastered the survival skill of reading faces and adapting rapidly. Say the appropriate thing and receive warmth. Saying the wrong thing will result in coldness. Over time, your nervous system associated acceptance with safety and rejection with peril. You grew up, but the wiring remained. The parent is now your boss. The teacher is the internet. The friends are the group chat, the relatives over dinner, and the partner who remains silent when you do not cooperate. And because your body still perceives disapproval as a threat, you give up portions of yourself to keep the peace. You answer yes when you mean no. You keep your opinions soft. You take the safest path. You apologize for your needs. Here's the good news. This does not imply you are weak. It signifies you have been trained, and anything may be retrained. The first step is to stop calling something kindness when it is actually fear. Living for oneself is not cruel, it is sovereignty. It is choosing that your life is not a public service and that your principles cannot be voted on. You can still be considerate, generous, and humane. However, you lose your ability to steer. Machiavelli was more concerned with what motivated people than with what they claimed. Approval is a currency. If you want it, others can compensate you with accolades and obedience. If you are afraid of criticism, they can threaten you with silence, gossip, or a disappointed expression, and then watch you give up. This explains why status games operate. Praise elevates you, while insults steer you. Belonging becomes a bargain. Behave, and you'll be maintained in the circle. Consider the distinction between being a decent person and a controllable one. A good person may say no without being hateful. A controlling person says yes with resentment. A nice individual chooses to help others. A controllable individual helps to avoid judgment. The world admires the nice version because lovely people are simple to handle. They are predictable. They can feel guilty. They could be embarrassed. They can be purchased with praise. That is why the risky upgrade is learning to accept misunderstanding. When you can deal with someone thinking you're selfish, cold, or unpleasant, you become unmovable. Stop chasing verdicts. You stop paying the approval tax. When you stop paying, individuals lose the handles with which they used to pull you. In the following sections, we'll name those handles and then remove them one by one. Your tendency to over-explain, your need to be perceived as good, your fear of disappointing others who don't care about your repercussions, and your habit of sacrificing your time for tranquility. This is not about becoming hostile, it's about getting unmanageable. Continuing to protect yourself is one of the quickest ways to lose your life. Consider how often you explain your decisions as if they seek approval. You justify your professional change. You justify why you don't want children. You rationalize why you're ending a relationship, staying single, training, saving money, not drinking tonight, and not responding to every message within 5 minutes. You speak as if you are in peril. And with that, you enter the courtroom. This is the hidden architecture of social interactions. Someone inquires, "Why would you do that?" Your nervous system hears, "Defend yourself." The judge asks inquiries. The defendant responds. Whoever asks gets to set the frame. Whoever answers is losing standing, since they see the other person's perspective as authoritative. Machiavelli would warn you not to volunteer for prosecution. Your life isn't a public referendum. Your decisions are not up for debate. You do not need to persuade individuals who do not understand the repercussions. Old you attempts to win the case. The family says, "You're really going to quit that stable job?" Then you say, "I know it sounds risky, but I've thought about it, and the market is changing, and I have a plan, and I just want to be happy." Your friend said, "You're obsessed with the gym now." Old you, "No, I'm simply trying to get healthier. I'm not judging anyone, I just..." Co-worker, "Why are you being so quiet lately?" Old you, "There's nothing wrong. I've just been busy. I apologize if I appear disrespectful." Do you sense a pattern? You're asking to be understood. You're pleading for permission. Even when they nod, you've taught them to expect explanations. You've taught them that if they put enough pressure on you, they can change your mind. The new you refuses to go to court. The family says, "You're really going to quit that stable job?" New you, "Yes." Your friend said, "You're obsessed with the gym now." New you, "Maybe." Co-worker, "Why are you being so quiet lately?" New you says, "I've been focused. Short, calm. There's no speech, no defense. You aren't being rude. You are being sovereign. You are telling the truth without seeking a verdict. Here's the rule. If a question is truly a judgment, Don't respond like a pupil. You respond like an adult. You may acknowledge without submitting. I hear you. I get your concern. I'm choosing this. Then you stop. Allow the silence to do its thing. Silence represents a limit. It indicates that your universe is not open to inquiry. People will try to tempt you back into explaining because it offers them leverage. They'll respond with, I'm just worried about you, and I'm just being honest, and if you can't talk about it, that's suspicious. That's not a concern. That's a grab for power. They want to know your motives so that they can debate with you. The power move is to keep your motivations concealed, not because you're hiding anything, but because your reasons are your own. Most people do not deserve them. A large number of people will make use of them. When you stop justifying your decisions, two things happen. First, you experience the discomfort of being alone in your decision. This ache is a withdrawal sign of approval addiction. Second, you begin to see who appreciates you and who only respects the version of you that is manageable. And this leads to the next step, selective opacity. You do not announce every plan. You do not describe every feeling. You do not distribute your blueprint to those who have not acquired access. In the following section, we'll go a step further and make you unbaitable, so praise and guilt can't influence you. Freedom comes at a cost, and that cost is mental suffering, because most individuals do not control you logically. They exert emotional power over you. Praise is sugar, guilt is a whip, warmth is the prize, coldness is the punishment, and if you've spent your life serving others, you've been conditioned to respond to these cues like a trained animal. When they give their approval, you may relax. When they disapprove, you scramble to fix it. That scramble is where you lose power. Families do this without recognizing it. The disappointed tone. This is after everything we've done for you. Partners do it based on mood. Friends do it through teasing and exclusion. Workplaces use labels to do this. Team player. Difficult, not a culture fit. In every situation, the mechanism is the same. They attach emotion to your behavior in order to influence you. To live for yourself, you must become unbaitable, emotionally unpurchasable. That does not imply you become frigid. It implies you no longer trade your nervous system for belonging. Begin by understanding the difference between facts and shame. Facts are actionable. Shame is an indicator of control. You're late is a reality. You're irresponsible is a label. The statement, the report has errors, is true. You're incompetent is a label. I feel neglected refers to an emotion. You don't care about me is the verdict. If you battle with labels, you end up back in court. You start preserving your identity rather than confronting reality. So you separate them. You respond to the actuality and ignore the humiliation. You're right, I'm late. Full stop. You're right, the report needs fixing. Full stop. You don't get involved in the character assassination. You do not take the hook. Here's the line that will save you. Selfish is what they label you after you cease being useful. Memorize it because it will happen. When you stop saying yes, people will accuse you of changing. They will call you cold, aloof, and haughty. Not because you are, but because your previous compliance simplified their lives. When you take away the convenience, they rename you to force you back into place. And the reason guilt works is that it takes over your identity. It murmurs, if you don't do what they want, you are a bad person. That's the oldest leash in the world. You shatter it by allowing yourself to be misunderstood. You make people think you're selfish. You allow them to be disappointed. You allow the discomfort to exist without rushing to resolve it. Tactically, this appears to be delays, pauses, and neutral tones. When someone drops a guilt bomb, you don't react right away. You pause. You breathe. You kept the silence for 2 seconds longer than felt appropriate. That slight space is you reclaiming your control. It prevents your body from automatically submitting. Then use calm, minimal language, not angry, not apologizing, Just be firm. That doesn't work for me. I'm not doing that. I'm choosing something else. I hear you. I'll think about it. And you do not include the essay. The essay is where they delve into your reasoning and begin altering your life. Here's a status ladder that most people ignore. At the bottom are those who must be liked. They seek out reactions. They panic when there is silence. They beg for clarification. People who can put up with discomfort rank higher. They don't require rapid permission. Above them are those who can tolerate misunderstanding. They allow others to be incorrect about them. And at the top are those who require no reactions at all. They act on principle and then let the world adjust. These people are difficult to manage because they do not pay emotional taxes. Compliments do not purchase them. Insults do not steer them. The manipulator cannot find the button since it is no longer attached to the engine. This is what emotional neutrality really means. Not numbness, not suppression. It is sovereignty. You can experience the sting of criticism without crumbling. You can enjoy praise without developing an addiction to it. You can love someone without letting their feelings control you. However, acknowledge the consequences. When you cease being emotionally steerable, some relationships may suffer. Some folks will put you to the test harder. Some will withdraw. That isn't failure. That's the environment exposing itself. That brings us to the following phase, which terminates the tug-of-war without incident. Controlled disengagement. When someone fails to follow your self-rule, you stop debating and start adjusting access. If you try to win your freedom by argumentation, you will fail, because disagreements keep you in the same frame. You're still seeking acceptance, just louder. You're still trying to get someone to respect you. Respect does not come from speeches, it stems from consequences. That is why the proper strategy is regulated withdrawal. You don't fight over space, you take it, quietly, cleanly, without any drama. Controlled withdrawal requires changing access. You reduce availability. You quit being on call. You stop providing free emotional labor. You stop saving people from the consequences of their own decisions. You do it without announcing a new era, because announcements encourage discussion. Begin with communication, fewer explanations, slower responses, shorter responses, to reprice rather than punish. When others want you to be available at all times, your speed becomes a leash around your own neck. You taught them that you are always reachable, ready, and willing. So, modify the training, then switch to availability. If you always say yes, you'll become background furniture. When you are selectively available, your time becomes valuable. Say no more often and use fewer words. Most individuals give up at this point because they feel bad and try to soften the boundary with a paragraph. Don't. I'm not available. That doesn't work for me. I'll think about it. I'm choosing differently. Notice what is missing. Justification. Justification is where they grab you. Next, reduce emotional labor. Emotional labor occurs when someone puts their anxiety, chaos, relationship trouble, and indecision on your lap, and you become their therapist, coach, or savior. If you do this automatically, people will continue to bring you their mess, and your life will resemble a garbage truck. You can care without carrying. You can listen without solving. You can empathize without taking responsibility. When someone calls with the identical dilemma they've had 10 times, your new approach does not involve a lengthy planning session. It's a calming mirror. That sounds hard. Pause. What are you going to do? Then stop talking. If they force you to fix it, you will keep your ground. I don't have an answer for you. Or it might be, you'll figure it out. That discomfort you're experiencing is a withdrawal symptom of your previous identity, the dependable rescuer. Now here's what comes next, and you must be prepared. The extinction exploded. When you cease feeding a pattern, it does not go lightly. It spikes. People escalate. They engage in guilt trips. They appear offended. They accuse you of changing. They turn frigid to punish you. They bring up old favors such as invoices. They manufacture drama to entice you back into your previous role. This does not prove you're doing things incorrectly. It demonstrates that the previous way once worked, but no longer works. This is where most individuals relapse. They sense the stress and rush to restore balance. They send a paragraph, they apologized, they overgive to show that they are still good. And the moment they do, the leash is reattached. So you remain calm. You repeat the line. You do not argue over the label. I hear you. I'm still not doing that. I'm not available. I understand you're disappointed. I'm choosing differently. If your freedom bothers someone, ask the difficult question. What did they gain from your lack of it? People that care about you learn to respect your boundaries. People who valued your convenience punished you for altering the terms. Controlled withdrawal makes that clear quickly. And once it's visible, you'll have control over your own life rather than theirs. Access becomes the lever, time becomes the gate, and you get to choose who enters. When you stop striving for acclaim, your life becomes quieter, and at first, the silence feels like loss. Fewer notifications, fewer invites, fewer people ask you what you think, what you want, or what you're doing. However, what you are actually losing is noise. You are losing the constant background bargaining that has kept you little and socially safe. Then something else occurs. People who stay become of higher quality. Conversations become cleaner. Boundaries are no longer a matter of debate. Respect replaces persuasion. You don't feel the need to mentally rehearse your options before saying them. You do not need to write the perfect explanation. Your mind stops running a courthouse 24/7, and the mental space that returns to you is almost astounding. That is self-respect returning, not as a slogan, but as a neurological system that now trusts you to guard it. This is the Machiavellian truth that many people overlook. You may be compassionate without being controlling. You can care without giving up the steering wheel. You can love people and refuse to be influenced by their feelings. The objective isn't seclusion. The goal is sovereignty. You'll also notice an unusual magnetic field. When you stop chasing approval, you stop communicating the need. People are less concerned with you when they are in need. They are cautious due to their lack of uncertainty. Some people will admire it, some people will resent it. Both reactions corroborate the shift. The simplest filter to place in your head is, does this help my mission or my image? Mission is what shapes your life. The image is what drives it. The mission bases its decisions on long-term outcomes. Image bases its decisions on short-term acceptability. If you run that filter honestly, you'll notice how many yes responses were actually fear in costume. Now verify it with a 7-day experiment. 1 boundary per day, 1 minute per day when you say no or make an alternative decision without lecturing. 1 controlled withdrawal each day results in a slower response, decreased access, and reduced emotional labor. And 1 secret deed per day that advances your life without informing others. No announcement. There was no validation hit. Just execution. By the end of the week, you'll recognize yourself even if no one is clapping. You'll sense the difference between loneliness and peace, and you'll realize that this is what adulthood is all about, selecting your life and then dealing with the repercussions of that choice. If you want to keep going, stick near. Next, we'll look at the hidden reasons why people penalize your independence, as well as how to stay strong when they try to drag you back into the position that made them feel comfortable. The final trap sounds comforting. Just be yourself. Most of the time, that counsel does not represent freedom. It's a leash with a lovely name. Because what people typically mean is that you should be constant, predictable, and the version of yourself that makes them comfortable. Maintain the same role, maintain the same reactions, maintain the same restrictions. Do not evolve in a way that compels them to adapt. However, sovereignty is not mood-based. The sovereign curates conduct based on the outcome, not by what feels genuine in the moment, but by what safeguards the mission. Sometimes the true version of yourself is peaceful. Sometimes it's firm. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's warm. You pick the posture that benefits your life, not the posture that garners applause. Machiavelli recognized that appearances are tools, not identities. You don't pour your entire soul into every room. You control what people can do, because access equals power.